you may not have seen the show or listened to any of the episodes, so I'm not sure how you'll respond, but it's the first question. Pilot say what?
Say what?
Exactly. Welcome to the 16th episode of Pilots Say What, where we hear what pilots have to say. And that was the right response. It was supposed to be a little confusing. But today,
I get it, because I'm the pilot.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I see.
And we're going to hear what you have to say today.
All right.
Anyhow, we have Holly Tran with us today. My name is Zachary. I'm your host. Thanks for joining us again for another episode. And we're going to cover a couple things. We'll talk a little bit about, we have a new location opening up, which I've mentioned before. But also, if I'm not mistaken, Holly has finished her CFI rating recently, which we haven't got to talk a lot about. Actually, last episode, we alluded to it a little bit, but I wanted a little more detail, so it's perfect timing. And then maybe some things about what it's like to be in the cockpit, what's in your pilot bag, the Piper Archer ambassadorship. I don't think that's the right word, but we'll talk about it all. Okay, cool. Anyhow, Holly, would you mind maybe introducing yourself just kind of briefly, whatever comes to mind?
Okay. So as he said, I'm Holly. I've started flight training here at Thrust about a year and a month ago. It was June 15th when I first started. Okay. Prior to starting aviation, I was in college studying pre-med biology. I graduated, and a month later, I started flying.
Oh, really? So you graduated, and you're like, was that a sharp left turn? Like, how fast did?
Yeah. Okay. So when I was in college, it was like my junior year. A friend of mine took me flying in his Cessna, and awesome. I've always had an interest in flying. However, I've never really considered it as a career because I didn't think it would be something for a person that looks like me. Mm-hmm. And so once I was up there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. And I told him that, and he's like, you can do it, right? I'm like, how do I get into this?
Yeah.
So he pointed me in the direction of Thrust, and I was like, okay, well, if I have to graduate college just to please my parents, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and graduated, and I let them know that I wanted to switch careers. And of course, they weren't happy at first. Uh-huh. But eventually my mom came around. My dad was always like, you can never have a family if you are a pilot, right? And I'm like, okay, watch me. So yeah, I did take a sharp left turn. I was like, you know what? I know it's quite a lot of money to get started, but it'll pay off, and I'll be happy. It's my life.
Yeah. No, we have a lot of people who, not a lot of people, but people have shared that they stopped going to college or maybe quit whatever career they're in, or they were on a break or whatever happened. But it's interesting that you decided that you did want to be a pilot and then still, finish your degree and everything like that. And that's good because you can go back to some of those things if you really wanted to. Mm-hmm. But to hear that you finished it and then still said, hey, I'm going to go over here. To me, it sounds like you really did like it if you made that decision.
Yeah. I just like to finish what I started, and it feels good to say you have a degree.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So
it just sits on a desk somewhere in the house, though.
Yeah, well, saying you did it, so yeah. That's good. Well, on that first flight, you said you had maybe a little bit of interest maybe prior to that first flight. Did that come from anywhere, or was there something like when you were younger, or what was that about?
When I was younger, I always thought it was cool to be on an airplane. Whenever I went on airline flights, a lot of people say that flying scares them. It was never something that really made me anxious or anything. The feeling of taking off and landing was always so interesting to me.
And I was gonna save it for later, but I know recently we took pictures, and Piper Archer posted your picture from our Thrust Flight page too, I think, or tagged us. I don't remember exactly how it went, but how did you kind of get into that? What does that look like, and how'd you get into it?
So actually, y'all reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in applying for this ambassador position, and I was like, what is this? What does it entail? So I got an email, and I looked through it, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll apply. So I applied, I redid my entire resume for it, and they liked my application and resume, so they went ahead and interviewed me on Zoom. The interview went well, so they reached out a week later and were like, you got the position, so they sent me a whole contract and everything. I do get compensated for all the posts, but prior to even being an ambassador, I already posted vlogs on TikTok of my little journey in aviation.
Nice.
So I think that also gave me kind of a bonus, but it's nothing's really changing, just posting more on Instagram rather than TikTok.
Yeah, and they're not really paying too much attention to they're not having you post much on TikTok, mostly on your Instagram?
They expect me to post on both. However, I feel like their whole social media platform is more based on Instagram.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But the idea is that you're someone who can kind of help spread some of the love for Piper Archers or Piper in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And then it's convenient because you're here at Thrust Flight and we're flying Piper Archers, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the ambassadorship is actually through the partnership between Thrust and Piper.
Oh,
So
okay, gotcha.
yeah.
See, I personally wasn't super aware of how that was going. I know Nick was handling some of that. I wanted to kind of look into that stuff to see kind of how they're just making it happen. It's kind of interesting to me. But we're gonna take some pictures tomorrow too, right?
Yeah.
I'm excited.
7 a.m.
Yes, we're gonna be there at 7 a.m. Try to get the sunrise a little bit. All right, we'll take some extra photos just in case. So
Yeah, cool.
we'll have some on hand.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Well, right now, you said you've been here since June 15th of 2023, right?
Mhm.
And you just finished your CFI rating. So I've been curious, like, firstly, the check ride, like, how does that kind of differ? Is that different than the other check rides for the previous 3 ratings?
Yes, it is
Yeah.
so different. So with private instrument and commercial, you're only learning the or you're only being tested on like the basic
Mm-hmm.
regulations of those things and the procedures and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
With CFI, you have to learn like the fundamentals of instructing. It's a lot of psychology stuff, and you also have to create these lesson plans and present them to your examiner.
Mm-hmm.
So that oral portion of the check ride took a lot longer. It was
Ooh.
about 4 hours, whereas with private instrument and commercial, it was only 2 hours.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was gonna be. I mean, that makes sense now that you explain it that way. Well, so if you're preparing to kind of treat the DPE, or it's not for CFI, do we still have examining authority?
We have examining authority
That's what
for
I
that,
thought.
so
Okay, but nonetheless, for whether it be a DPE or an EOC, do you? So basically, you're preparing to teach them as if they were a student,
yeah.
and then they're gonna say you did a good job, or you didn't do a good job, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And then in the flight, what's the flight experience like? Is it very different?
It is very different.
Uh-huh.
So in the flight,
Mhm.
for private instrument and commercial, you're typically being told what to do, what to
Mhm.
demonstrate for each thing. Whereas in the CFI Checkride or EOC, you have to plan the order of what to present or demonstrate in the flight, and your DP pretty much or examiner stays silent the whole time while you're
Wow.
just walking through it yourself, teaching it to them as if they know nothing about aviation.
Yeah, I can imagine that's like a different level of confidence than just answering questions.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the same difference between, I would imagine, like a multiple choice and a short answer.
Yeah.
If anyone gets that, I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, that sounds like you have to go a little more in depth. Okay, but you just did that how many days ago?
About 12 days ago.
Okay, gotcha. It
Yeah.
went well, and you passed.
Yeah, passed first attempt.
Okay, well then while we're at it, do you have any maybe in hindsight any advice you would have given to yourself or anyone else who might be approaching their CFI or is curious about it?
So in the past, I always studied the night before my check ride, and that caused me to be really nervous,
Hmm.
slip up, and make some mistakes occasionally. However, whenever I found out that I was having the CFI EOC the next day,
Hmm.
they gave me no notice.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm not going to study because that's just panicking at that point. I'm just going to go in with what I know and pretty much wing it.
Right, and wing it. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've been working on it leading up to that point, anyways, hopefully you are ready. And you
Right.
just chose not to
Yeah.
cram so that you could feel a little more. What's the word? Calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's good though. It sounds like it all worked out, like you said, like you winging it worked out.
Yeah. Another piece of advice I would give to anyone studying for CFI is to study with people. I don't know if that works for everyone because I know some people prefer to study alone, but
Mm.
I studied with 2 different people all the time. We were always getting together, whether it was here at school or somewhere else, like at the park or at a coffee shop or a
Mhm.
restaurant. We would always just be quizzing each other.
Mhm.
Personally, I don't learn best by being quizzed myself. I learn best by quizzing other people or
Mm.
listening to people quiz each other and learning from their mistakes.
Yeah.
That's just me personally.
No, but that's good. A lot of people, I'm not even sure. I think my best way in learning about things is just literally talking about it and
Mhm.
I ask a lot of questions. Maybe that's why I get to be on the podcast because I'm good at asking questions.
You are.
Okay, good. But okay, well, that's good. If you've got your CFI check ride coming up soon, at least you can hear from, I think you're the second person we've heard from that can say something about that. maybe the second person. Anyhow, well, congratulations on the CFI. So you have to do
Thank you.
CFII next as well, right?
Yeah.
But that one's something similar, but you're just doing it on a multi-engine, or how does that?
No, so CFII is for instrument
Oh,
instructing.
yes, I knew that.
So, we're pretty much okay. So I haven't touched any instrument knowledge in several months.
Mhm.
So I was put into this CFII Academy for 3 days where we kind of refresh on all of the ground knowledge for instrument. And
Mhm.
so now that we're hopping back into like flights, we get 2 simulator sessions and then 2 flights before you're pretty much ready for a check ride.
Yeah.
So being in double I now, we're not only kind of remembering how to do all these different instrument procedures, but you're also
Mhm.
having to talk through it to somebody that knows nothing about it.
Wow. Okay, yeah. Well, that's a little nerve-wracking. Then, well, it makes me wonder, are you planning on, and most people are, but are you planning on being a CFI with us?
Yeah,
If,
that's what I'm
of
hoping
course, if
for.
everything permits,
Yeah,
yeah.
fingers
What does that
crossed.
make you nervous at all,
It
or?
does make me nervous. I'm
Yeah.
like not sure if I don't know what the qualities they look for in a person or a CFI here,
Mhm.
but I hope that I have all of those things. Like I care about teaching other people. I've always helped other people study throughout all my ratings.
Mhm.
I myself work very hard. I feel like I own up to my own mistakes a lot. I
Mhm.
have failed a few stage checks and check rides. That's not something I'm really afraid to admit,
Yeah.
and I feel like I could help people learn through my own mistakes.
Exactly. Exactly. Being afraid of the mistakes is more so harmful, probably, than
Right.
yeah.
You got to accept them.
Exactly, yeah, and there's something to learn from.
Yeah.
Well, you have the benefit of going to school here and interacting with our CFIs, so maybe there's something to know there. I'm sure they have a job description somewhere too, but I always wonder about that. I don't know. Do you know what that process kind of looks like trying to get into the CFI role, or is it just like when you graduate and you apply and you see how it goes?
Yeah, so back then they would allow you to apply before you even got your CFI rating or maybe after you got your CFI rating.
Hmm.
However, now they're requiring us to finish double I first and then
Hmm.
apply. So I have my resume ready for whenever that happens.
Okay.
Um, I know that a chief interviews you,
Hmm.
and after that I don't really know what happens.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You get hired eventually. Maybe
Yeah,
you can start flying.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. We've talked to a lot of CFIs, and if you do end up going back and looking at some of the episodes, we've talked to a lot of CFIs who have talked about the transition from being a student into being a CFI, and there's a little bit of a learning curve. But once you get there, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Kind of like what you said a moment ago about the psychology of it,
Mhm.
like learning how to communicate effectively in a way that like works for someone who doesn't know what you know.
Yeah.
So.
I was told by another CFI a while ago because I was telling them about my imposter syndrome. I
Mhm.
was like, I don't know if I'll be a good instructor because I don't even feel like I'm a decent enough pilot right now. And he was like,
Mm.
everyone that finishes CFI is still a mediocre pilot. You can't expect to be the best. Like,
Uh-huh.
you become better as you actually teach with the job.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm trying to get through my head. I'm like, okay, I don't have to be perfect right now. I don't have to always consistently demonstrate the maneuvers perfectly.
Mhm.
That is just something that that gets into my muscle memory as I teach and work.
Yeah, and I've heard that from every other CFI, so if it makes a difference, I've heard that from like every CFI I've asked
Yeah.
about. So, and maybe we'll make some content about the imposter syndrome thing now if it is coming up in conversations around the
Yeah.
school.
It's a big thing.
Yeah, but I mean, we're all community here and we're all learning together. It sounds
Yeah.
like. Well, I wanted to ask you, um, I wanted to move forward because I always see that pilots always have like a bag they take with them when they fly. Everyone has their own little bag and they have their own things in there. Like, do you have what's in your pilot bag that goes with you when you fly?
So there are a lot of random things I throw into my bag. It's just a
Mhm.
little cute little green backpack.
Okay.
Nothing special. I feel like I should probably get a better bag that's more sturdy, but inside my bag I have my logbook, which is required whenever
Mhm.
you're training. I have my wallet, which has my pilot certificate.
Mhm.
I have a rag in there
Mhm.
to help me check the oil temperatures because when you're checking it, sometimes it's really hot.
Uh-huh.
And I have sensitive fingers. So I use the rag. I have a journal to write any important notes, which I actually haven't touched in months.
Yeah.
I have a book because I like reading. So
Mm.
sometimes if I'm backseating somebody else, I just pull up my book and start reading.
Mhm.
Pens, pencils, markers, perfume,
Yeah.
and a portable charger.
See, that's great. There's a lot of someone said they had like basically like the vital sensor that you put on your finger because they were curious about how the elevation. So there's a couple of different things. I'm gonna start asking that a little bit more.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah, they're like, well, a lot of people have watches now, but the vital sensor just does it all for you, so it
Yeah.
sounds kind of cool. Um, That's cool. Well, we're gonna make a compilation of people saying that stuff. Do you know about the? We're gonna switch a couple topics, to be honest with you. But before I move on to some other things, I did want to ask you about Conroe, Texas. Have you been down there at all?
I haven't been there, but I've seen images from
Hmm.
y'all's Instagram and everything.
Hmm.
It looks really nice. Even student housing looks nice.
Yeah, no, I didn't see the student housing pictures or even the location, but I did
Oh,
fly
okay.
down to the main part where we're gonna be having dispatch and the planes and the hangar and stuff like that. It's pretty nice. It
It's
is nice.
so nice.
Then do you do anything else outside of being a student pilot? Like, I mean, do you still hang out with people? Do you still have hobbies or
Do I
anything?
still hang out with
Yeah.
people? Yes, I still have friends.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of hobbies I like to partake in still.
Uh-huh.
Piano, one of them.
Hmm.
Tennis. I've gotten into pickleball lately. That's getting huge.
I hear pickleball's the thing.
Yeah,
It's like a
and
more entry level tennis kinda, or no? Am I wrong? Is that I don't know what it
I
is.
still don't understand the rules
Okay.
of pickleball. I'm more
Okay.
familiar with tennis. For everyone else that kind of describes it to me, they kind of say it's like a big ping pong game.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know how ping pong works.
Well, ping pong's a table tennis,
Yeah.
so maybe it's somewhere in between.
But I'm
But yeah.
seeing like pickleball courts pop up everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't like when did this become a thing?
It's almost like I've driven by them and they look like kind of like Top Golfs in the sense that like, oh, it looks like a vibe in there for someone who wants to kind of like be okay at something they don't know how to play.
Yeah.
And
There was a
I
coffee
don't do
shop that
that.
opened up near my house that
Yeah.
has pickleball courts, and that's something I've been wanting to go visit. I plan to like study with more people there too.
Okay, that sounds like a vibe. So,
Yeah.
but that's been something that you plan on doing though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay. But like outside of, I mean, do you play piano at home or do you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I play piano at home. I grew up learning it like pretty
Yeah,
much all my life, so it's
yeah,
something I never really lost. I'm not as good as I used to be.
yeah, I
I
kind of
wish
believe
I
it.
was. I wish
Yeah.
I took it more seriously as a child, but I still like to play. I hear songs online that I want to
And
learn.
that's what I'm wondering. Like, how do you like? What is it that you do? You kind of just like learn covers and things like that.
Pretty
Or,
much,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Like I'll watch shows, I'll hear a song and be like I have to learn that. So I'll look up the
that's
sheet
cool.
music. Um what else do I like to do outside of being a pilot?
Honestly, most people just say I hang out with my family or whatever. So you win.
That's I mean, I like to work out. I haven't been as consistent as I was before flying.
Hmm.
I have 2 dogs. I like to take them out. Um,
Yeah.
it's been too hot to do that lately, though.
Yeah, no, yeah, seriously. Like just taking my dogs out, I'm like, all right, we're gonna go back inside.
I'm
It's too hot out here.
like,
Uh,
get inside now.
exactly. And they come in and they're panting and everything like
Yeah.
that. I wanted to ask you if, how do you feel like the commitment level of being a student pilot at Thrust Flight is something that's like difficult, or do you feel like it's gonna be prepping you at all? Like, how do you kind of feel about that? Do you feel like in hindsight it's gonna be helping you out a lot once you move into your career?
Personally, I feel like showing commitment at the school helps you a lot because you can make connections with everyone at the school, and that could possibly take you far. Um,
Hmm.
but prior to starting aviation, I don't think I've ever worked this hard in my life. Like even in
Even in
college,
medical school?
well, I wasn't in medical
Oh,
school,
what do
but
you?
I was like pre-med.
Oh, pre-med, yes, gotcha.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Even
Because
when I
even
was
just
studying
school is
that,
hard for me, so I'm like,
yeah, I was never one of those A+ students. Like my
mhm,
parents were very mad whenever I
yeah,
wouldn't get an A. But I didn't study as hard as I do now.
yeah,
So it's definitely weird seeing myself work so hard and succeed because I was
uh-huh,
like, wow, maybe I should have worked this hard in college.
mm,
Um, but it's paying off now, I hope.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, for you to even think that, oh, maybe that, because we don't. I think it takes a lot to realize something like that. Like, oh, I could have worked harder in college when you probably thought you were going hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that's why I ask, because I'm curious about if this school didn't ask for such commitment or to be a full-time student or allowed you to have a job outside. I wonder what kind of effects, like students may be missing out on if it wasn't that way. So I guess that's why I asked that question.
I did have to cut back a lot on my social life. Like
Hmm.
before I started aviation, I was going out every week and seeing my friends all the time.
Yeah,
Anytime I was bored, I'd be like, "Hey guys, what you doing?"
yeah,
And now it's my friends asking me what I'm doing. I'm like, "Sorry, girl, I can't. I
yeah,
gotta study. I got a flight in the morning."
yeah. And how does that feel when you had to say that?
I
How
get
long did it take?
FOMO. I get
Yeah.
FOMO so bad.
I hear you still, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, hey, you're moving through the program pretty fast, so
Yeah.
hopefully you'll get to return to those. I get FOMO too,
Yeah.
but I always tell people the same thing. I'm like, I got stuff to do, so
Yeah.
I guess I gotten
It's
a little
hard being an
used to it.
adult.
Yeah, it is. I'm officially adulting.
Right.
Okay, and then also though, let's see, there was something else down here. Oh, we already did that already. look, we kind of flew through a lot of the topics. They came up very naturally. There's only so much more to kind of talk about. Uh, you've been balancing it well. Oh, do you have any ideas for where you kind of want to be trying to work? I know that's kind of in the future, but some people like have a whole grand plan and some people don't. Uh, yeah, do you have any vision for how you want to enter into your aviation career?
So the end goal is definitely airlines for me.
Hmm.
However, I want to kind of explore what's in between that.
Hmm.
So I will, of course, instruct for a little while, and then at some point, I want to see if I can find a charter job, which is a Part 135.
Hmm.
I feel like they get more time to kind of sit in the city they travel to and explore, whereas in airlines, you're flying to your destination, sleeping there, then leaving the next day.
Hmm.
So I want more time to actually adventure.
Yeah, I'm curious. And have you like looked into kind of what it looks like to get into a charter job?
No.
Yeah, I gotcha. That's why I'm curious. People mention it, and I wonder if it's difficult or if it's like if you just kind of are resourceful if you can figure it out or what.
I have a friend. It's the friend that introduced me to aviation.
Yeah.
He works at a charter company
Okay.
and he actually hires there. So
There you
that's
go.
something I plan to explore, hopefully.
Yeah. Whether
Hopefully
he
he's still
can.
there by the time I have my hours.
Well, even if he isn't, he has the experience in it, and maybe he'll be able to be like, "Well, here's what I would do."
Yeah.
But yeah, good luck. Hopefully, he is still there because that's. I mean, like I said, get it how you can get it. That sounds
Yeah,
great, and then you'll have
exactly.
experience flying in jets at that
Yeah.
point. That should like kind of bump you up on the list once you start looking for the airline work.
Yeah, the
So
particular company he flies for flies the PC-12, which is something that a lot of pilots like want to fly at one point in their life.
yeah,
So
what is the
hopefully I
like?
can.
What's the hype around the PC-12?
So this is
Yeah,
really weird.
yeah.
But there are YouTube videos
Uh,
of like ASMR
I
of
understand what kind of
the
YouTube.
startup sounds of the PC-12.
I'll
And
Google it.
yeah, my friend told me to listen to it, so I did. And ever since then, I was like showing everybody else.
Do
It
you like
sounds
ASMR videos? You don't have to admit if you don't want to,
sometimes.
but okay.
So there will be late
Mhm.
nights
Uh-huh.
where I'm hungry, but I
Oh.
know I shouldn't get up out of bed to go eat because I already brushed my teeth and
Mhm.
everything. I'm already comfortable in bed.
Uh-huh.
So I'll look up videos of people eating to kind
Yeah.
of fill the void for me.
That's
Is that
so funny.
weird?
No, well, it might sound weird to a lot of people. I've learned how very common it is now being around like different girls and stuff. And my girlfriend, I'll be sitting next to her and I'll hear some crazy stuff. And I'll look at her phone and just someone sitting there
Yeah.
just
It's
eating straight into the microphone.
yeah.
But I think my version of ASMR is I'll watch people like literally, and I don't do any woodwork or anything. Like I'm crafty, sure, at most I'm handy or whatever. But I'll sit there and watch people build things from scratch with wood or like fix a van up or something like
Have
that,
you
and I'll just
seen
listen to
those
them.
have you seen those videos on YouTube of those two guys like building stuff in the jungle?
Yes, I have. I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Those are really entertaining to watch.
Yeah. I'll stay up
Imagine
so late watching those. Yeah.
they're very entertaining, and I'm
Yeah.
like, there's no way. Like I'm wondering what's outside of this shot. I'm like, where are they staying?
Yeah. Where are
Um,
all these tools coming from?
Yeah, yeah, and then some of them they just use their hands and stuff. And
Yeah.
they'll make tools, but imagine if you could hear all the sounds though. That'd be awesome.
Sometimes there are sounds like
I
the
know.
tippy tappy noise.
Oh, maybe that's. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
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 I've seen it
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Anyhow, I'm gonna go look up the PC-12 ASMR videos because I want to hear the plane and see
Yeah.
what the hype is. Well, I mean, we've covered most of the things that I think we would want to talk about. We kind of just flew through a lot of them. Um, I think the last question I would really ask is if you have any advice to people who are going through their ratings now, or maybe are about to start their student pilot journey. Just looking at yourself and maybe seeing some of the things you struggled with, whether it be around like mentally or the things that were difficult. What is some advice you might have for somebody who's a new student pilot?
I can think of a couple things.
Yeah.
Number one, don't compare your progress to other people's progress. I still do that sometimes, and it really puts me down when it really shouldn't, because I have progressed so far on my own.
Right.
Everyone's progress is like their own journey.
Yeah.
Another thing, don't overthink. Like I said earlier, it's easy for me to panic study before a check ride.
Yeah.
Don't do that. And then during a check ride, a lot of people forget that they can look things up if they don't know the answer, as long
Mm.
as it's an FAA regulated document.
Yes.
Last thing, don't be afraid to reach out and make friends and study with them, because everyone's always down to study with you. It
Right.
doesn't matter where they're at in their training. Even if they're ahead of you, they're always willing to help you, because it's a good refresher for them too.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's good. That was short and sweet and simple, so that was perfect. We'll leave that there.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Holly Tran, for joining us on another episode of Pilots Say What. Join us again next week if you enjoyed this episode. If you're still listening, then maybe you should go ahead and make sure that we have a comment or like or subscribe from you. That really helps us out. Go ahead and check out our website if you want to know more information, thrustlight.com.